Welcome to Neural Nexus Podcast, where we explore the hottest topics shaping the world. Let's dive in.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Jeju Air Flight 2216 crash.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
We're going to be looking at a couple reports from AP News and also the Wikipedia entry.
Right. Try to piece together what we know so far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's 127 confirmed fatalities out of 181 people on board.
Yeah, that's a significant number.
It really is. So we're going to try to figure out, what happened, what caused it, and what it means going forward for aviation safety.
Absolutely. It's a stark reminder, I think, of the inherent risks in air travel.
Yeah, for sure.
And the fact that it happened in South Korea, which generally has pretty good track record in terms of aviation safety, makes it all the more impactful.
Absolutely. When you look at the numbers too, right? 127 fatalities. It's up there with some of South Korea's worst aviation incidents.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Korean air crash in Guam back in 1997. That was 228 fatalities.
It's important, though, I think, to distinguish between these events. The Guam crash involved a controlled flight into terrain, meaning that the plane was under the pilot's control but collided with the ground. In that case, Nimitz Hill. And that, sadly, is more common than we might think.
Oh, wow.
Often attributed to pilot error or poor visibility, but different from what it seems we're seeing with this Jeju Air Flight 2216.
Right. This seems like it was, they were talking about a failed deployment of the front landing gear.
Right, a belly landing, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is, as you know, incredibly dangerous. It's basically a last resort maneuver when your landing gear fails to deploy.
It's, just thinking about the forces involved in landing a plane that large.
Oh, yeah.
A Boeing 737-800 without the landing gear. I mean, that must take nerves of steel. What could even cause something like that?
Well, the AP report mentions that the control tower warned the pilot about a bird strike.
Okay.
And bird strikes are no joke, even a small bird.
Right.
Hitting an engine or a critical flight surface at high speed can cause serious damage.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen engine failures. We've seen smashed windshields.
Wow.
We've even seen breached fuel tanks.
That's pretty frightening.
Yeah, with disastrous consequences. So that certainly seems like a likely culprit here, potentially damaging the landing gear mechanism.
It seems that way. But I guess we can't jump to conclusions.
We can't. Right. There are other factors that investigators will need to look into, like weather conditions, for example.
Right.
Things like icing conditions, strong winds, heavy rain. Those things can sometimes interfere with the hydraulic systems that deploy the landing gear.
Right. So you've got those external factors. What about mechanical malfunction with the landing gear itself?
Absolutely. I mean, these are complex machines.
Yeah.
Things can go wrong. And while Jeju Air has stated that their pre-flight checks didn't reveal any issues, those checks aren't foolproof.
Right.
There's always the possibility of a latent defect that could emerge during the flight.
Yeah.
Mechanical failures, while statistically less common, have caused landing gear malfunctions in the past.
So we've got, bird strike weather mechanical issue all on the table at this point.
Yeah, lots of possibilities, each with their own complexities.
It's interesting, though, because in the AP report, they mentioned that the pilot, after being warned about the bird strike, attempted to land in a different area.
Oh, right.
What do you think the thinking was behind that?
Well, it sounds like, he was trying to actively manage this incredibly challenging situation.
Yeah.
We won't know for sure without analyzing the cockpit voice recordings, but it suggests a strategic decision-making process.
So even in these high-pressure moments, he's thinking on his feet, trying to find the best possible outcome.
Exactly.
Maybe looking for a longer runway, you think?
Could be a longer runway, gives them more space to bring the plane down and decelerate. Or maybe even trying to avoid populated areas if they thought a crash was inevitable.
Right. Trying to think about people on the ground as well.
Yeah, prioritizing the safety of people on the ground is ingrained in every pilot's training.
Yeah, it must be an incredibly difficult job. And there was also the report about the plane catching fire after the crash.
Right. Unfortunately, fire is often a consequence of aviation accidents.
Right.
The fuel on board combined with the forces involved in the crash creates a perfect storm for a fire to erupt.
Yeah, it's terrifying, and it's often the cause of a lot of the fatalities in these events.
It is, and the images of the burning wreckage are tough to see.
They are. But I did notice that the report said the fire was extinguished within 43 minutes.
Yeah?
Which seems remarkably fast considering.
It is a rapid response,
Yeah.
and that's a testament to the over 1,500 emergency personnel who were on scene.
Wow.
They did an amazing job containing the fire so quickly.
That's a silver lining, I guess,
Yeah.
in an otherwise devastating situation. But even with that, 127 people, it's hard to even process.
It's a stark reminder of the fragility of life, and it really underscores the importance of these investigations
Right.
to understand what happened and learn from it so we can hopefully prevent future tragedies.
Yeah.
And thankfully, they've already recovered the black box.
Right, the black box.
Yeah.
Can you explain to folks who maybe aren't as familiar with aviation
Sure.
what that is and why it's so important?
Yeah, the term black box is actually a little bit misleading.
Okay.
It's actually bright orange
Oh, really?
to make it easier to locate after a crash.
Yeah.
But more importantly,
Mm.
it's incredibly tough. It's built to withstand, extreme impacts, heat pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And inside, there are two key recorders.
Okay.
There's the flight data recorder, the FDR, and the cockpit voice recorder, the CVR.
So it's like a combination of a data logger and a voice recorder.
Exactly.
Okay, what kind of information are they actually capturing?
Well, the FDR captures a vast amount of data
Yeah.
about the plane's performance during the flight.
Okay.
So we're talking altitude, airspeed, heading,
Mm.
engine parameters, control surface positions, you name it.
Wow.
It's basically a constant stream of information about how the aircraft was functioning.
And then the cockpit voice recorder that's recording everything that's being said in the cockpit.
Yeah, it captures all the conversations between the pilots, their communications with air traffic control, any other sounds in the cockpit,
Okay.
like alarms or warnings.
So they'll be listening to those final moments and trying to piece together
Exactly.
what happened and what decisions were made.
It's an incredibly intense process
I did.
to listen to those recordings, knowing the outcome,
Right.
and trying to identify, any missed cues, any warning signs that could have been acted upon differently.
It's got to be tough.
It is, but it's necessary to understand that chain of events
Yeah.
and hopefully prevent something similar from happening again.
Right. As we talk about this crash and we're waiting for the investigation's findings, I can't help but think about the timing of it all.
Yeah.
This is happening at the same time as there's a lot of political turmoil going on in South Korea.
Right. You're talking about the declaration of martial law by President Yoon Suk-yeol,
Yeah.
and then the subsequent impeachment of the acting president.
It's a time of a lot of uncertainty, a lot of upheaval.
Mhm.
I wonder if there's any connection or impact on the situation with the Jeju air crash.
It's a tough question.
Mm.
I mean, the crash itself is a separate event,
Right?
but you have to wonder if the political context might influence things,
Mm-hmm.
Like
what?
Well, I mean, think about the strain that this puts on government resources.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a major aviation disaster to deal with, which requires a thorough and complex investigation.
Yeah.
At the same time that you're trying to navigate a major political crisis.
Right. Something's got to give.
Exactly. And then there's the question of how the public perceives the crash and the government's response.
Yeah. People are already on edge,
They are.
anxious about the political situation, this tragedy. I mean, it could heighten those anxieties even more.
Right, and potentially fuel existing political tensions.
Yeah. And what if there are any missteps in the handling of the crash investigation?
Yeah, those could easily get amplified in this current climate.
So you're saying the political instability could create this atmosphere of heightened scrutiny?
I think so, which would make it even more challenging for the government and for Jeju Air to navigate the aftermath of this crash.
Yeah, exactly. And don't forget about Jeju Air themselves.
Oh, right.
I mean, they're facing a potential PR nightmare.
Yeah, on top of the devastating human cost.
Yeah, and that reputational damage can have real consequences.
How so?
Well, it can affect ticket sales, investor confidence, and ultimately their ability to recover from this disaster.
I see.
And the political backdrop could make it even harder for them to rebuild that trust.
It's a multifaceted challenge,
It is.
made even more complex, I think, by this political turmoil that's going on in South Korea. This tragedy is already devastating.
Yeah,
But then you add this layer of political instability, and it just adds a whole new dimension to it.
it does.
Really makes you think about the wider ripple effects of these kinds of events.
Yeah, it does. As we process this tragedy and try to understand it all, it makes me think about, like in an age of such sophisticated technology, how can we make air travel even safer?
That's the question that drives so much research and innovation in the aviation industry.
Right.
And there's no easy answer. It's really a constant pursuit of improvement.
Yeah.
A layered approach that involves technology, human factors, and rigorous investigation.
So where do we even start? Is it about, developing even more advanced aircraft, creating stricter regulations? What are the key areas we should be focusing on?
Well, technological advancements are definitely crucial. We've seen incredible progress in aircraft design materials, safety systems, think about fly-by-wire systems, advanced navigation aids,
Yep.
collision avoidance technology. I
Right.
mean, these innovations have significantly enhanced safety over the years.
We've come a long way from the early days of aviation.
We have. But, technology alone isn't enough.
Right, of course not.
Human factors play a critical role. Even with the most advanced aircraft, pilot error is still a factor.
Yeah, that's true.
So enhancing pilot training, fatigue management, communication protocols, these are all essential. We need to make sure that pilots are equipped to handle these complex situations and make the best possible decisions under pressure.
So it's about finding that balance between the sophisticated technology and the human element.
Exactly. Recognizing that both are absolutely essential for safe air travel.
Yeah, and then there's the investigative process itself.
Right.
Making sure that there are thorough and independent investigations after every incident, no matter how small.
Exactly. That's crucial for identifying, those root causes and implementing effective solutions. And that's where the black box data is so valuable.
Right.
Allows investigators to really reconstruct those events and understand what went wrong.
So it's about learning from every incident and constantly striving to improve?
It is. And that learning process requires global collaboration. Airlines, manufacturers, regulators, research institutions all need to share information and work together to develop and implement safety enhancements.
So it's really a global responsibility?
It is. Aviation safety is a global responsibility, and progress requires a united effort.
It's a good reminder that even in the midst of these tragedies, there's this unwavering dedication to making air travel as safe as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Jeju Air crash is a heartbreaking loss.
It is.
A stark reminder of the risks involved, but it's also a call to action. A reminder that safety is an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
A continuous pursuit of knowledge and improvement. And by learning from this tragedy and working together, we can strive to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future.
Well said. That's a good place for us to wrap up this deep dive today. It's been a tough conversation, but an important one.
It has.
Thanks to everyone for joining us as we explored this tragedy and its implications for aviation safety. We'll continue to follow the investigation closely, and we'll provide updates as they become available. Until then, fly safe, everyone.